Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Ship Safely podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian, and today we're joined by Antonina Norair, the CTO of M0 Labs, a platform for building stablecoins and next gen on chain dollars. Antonina has held senior engineering positions at some famous companies in the Web3 space, such as ConsenSys, Compound Labs, and MoonPay. I consider her one of the veterans of DeFi. She was doing DeFi, she was building DeFi very early on. And now she leads a stellar team that is shaping M0's approach to stablecoin infrastructure. Her background spans DeFi, smart contracts, and large scale system design. Antonina, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and such a great intro. Excited to share my experience with your listeners.
We're super excited to have you on. And to start off, we have this question we ask everyone, and that is, what do you hope that the listeners and the people watching this will take away from this discussion? Why should they stick around and listen to the whole episode?
Oh, it's a great question. So hopefully the audience will learn like very short, concise results of my experience going through, as you mentioned, DeFi evolution and building stablecoin platform now and surviving in this, like I would say, very challenging space.
Definitely very challenging. A lot of ups and downs. You started your journey at ConsenSys, which is like a huge company right now in Web3, and then moved into what was then, a startup doing DeFi at Compound Labs. What lessons did you learn along the way? What did you need to unlearn? And if you could tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I don't think I learned something. I just like collected experiences. But yeah, I learned definitely a lot. And as you mentioned, the companies were different, right? So ConsenSys was a big setup. It was called Mesh at that point. It had a lot of projects, a lot of brilliant, like very innovative people. I joined them 2018, so not like complete beginning when Joe Lubin started this whole thing with together with Ethereum launch, basically 2014. But my learning was first of all to survive through bear and bull cycles and continue to build. So don't get too excited during the bull cycle because it will change. Don't get like too depressed during the bear because it also will change, and just continue grinding. Because yeah, I joined basically at the top of like previous bull cycle ICO craze in 2018. And then very fast after that, everything went down and ConsenSys went through a bunch of layoffs. And my job was like to continue deliver projects, which I basically focus myself on. And one more learning from ConsenSys was, I guess, my shift of mindset, where I realized I can work on any projects I want, or I can like join and participate in initiatives I like within like big company. The only thing like I need to raise the hand and say I'm interested. And that was what ConsenSys Mesh used to be. And for me, it was like completely different mindset comparing to the companies I was before, where you join, you assign to some task and you grind that task, and you don't have that like ability to even see the big picture or like again raise your hand and join something else. So that what was different about ConsenSys Mesh. So it was like very completely different paradigm. And through my journey with ConsenSys, yeah, I did a bunch of things. And ConsenSys had a lot of different spokes and startups, including well-known like MetaMask and Fura, had different groups. I realized I want to join CodeFi, which mean at that point it was like commerce and DeFi. And through that experience, and I realized that I want to go and try to actually work on some protocol work, building DeFi. And that's how I went to Compound. So I went to Compound before DeFi summer, like a few would say, few months when COVID break. And yeah, Compound was like shaping company for me as a protocol engineer and like protocol team lead or like lead now. Yeah, I learned a lot. First of all, it had a really high bar of technical culture, together with certain element of chilliness, where you have to focus on building the great software. You have to audit that, and then you should not worry too much about how much money is in it, because then you just won't make it. Also, it was very open culture, like still coming from different environments. We had like brainstorms where the whole company was participating. I mean, it was small. I mean, it was relatively small, less than 10 people, but there was this intellectual flatness where you come to R&D room and you discuss the ideas, and your opinion is on the level with, let's say, CEO and CTO of the company. Obviously, there was a hierarchy and they take the final decision, but in brainstorming, you participate. So that was my learning, where hierarchy is based on responsibility, but it's not based on intellectual power, let's put it this way. Everyone should be able to participate and include their thoughts and like decision and brainstorming process. And yeah, a lot of learnings too. Obviously, Compound, unfortunately, is not the leading protocol anymore. That's happened for various reasons, which we maybe cover in this call as well, briefly. But yeah, the culture was great, and I think the quality bar of specs and the code, which was set up by Compound, was like also spread around the DeFi ecosystem.
Not sufficiently enough, I think. There should be more projects doing that
More.
level of documentation and specs, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's true. That's the one thing I learned there. Like when we start the project, and there was this very sufficient spec process. But what it was actually, it was a brainstorming. So because when you write the spec and you're thinking it through, you basically you force yourself like almost write the code. And at this stage, it's not too late to change it. So what happens when you do like this extensive specs, which I try to bring to M0 as well, at some point, is you just thinking through together with a team and find the final best solution. And then you can build and then you can split. So what the beauty of having like this extensive spec, which Compound introduced, is that you can take that spec and you have 5 6 engineers and you just put them on different tasks, and it's possible to scale this way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I hope if someone is watching who's building a new protocol or is going to be building something new, that they take this away, because in terms of security and auditing, having a good spec is very important and makes, the auditor's life much easier and the effectiveness of the audit much better, I feel. So going on to the second question, you took us on your journey, and you started out as an engineer, and now at M0, you've become CTO. You've been promoted a few months ago, I remember, and we're all, like everyone, I'm guessing, looks up to you and um, is wondering how you made the jump and what would be your approach, what advice would you give to someone wanting to follow that career path?
Definitely, like the advice I want to give is just like at some point, if you have interest in leveraging yourself up, you naturally becoming. It's like basically what I mean leveraging yourself up is you're not the only one who sit and code the ideas. You also want to use resource of other people talent. You have to move on, and you're moving on. You're becoming a tech lead, or you're building out, like you join as a tech lead, or you're building out a small team from scratch trying to deliver something. So it was like quite natural progression for most people. It's just a question of time, like when and how it happens, you never know. But overall, if you move through life, years, you like and you're an engineer and you end up doing becoming tech lead, VP of engineering, CTO, head of engineering, like overall title doesn't matter. what it means that now you are not the most important. Like you have to become an orchestrator of other senior talented engineers to deliver a result. And it's definitely a shift of mindset where you have to help others before you help your own tasks. And yeah, with M0, I joined them. I like my title is CTO. I'm not a founder. I consider myself more like head of engineering, where I joined Luca and Greg to build out the protocol and the company engineering function of the company. And for the last 2.5 years, I basically was doing that. And my title changed through my name of my title changed, but overall responsibilities grow up a little bit, but overall I was doing the same thing. Now I have to scale the team, which is very, very tricky, and become like even more of that orchestrator where I don't necessarily code and do all the projects because at this stage for us it's impossible, but I build out very scalable, innovative units and attract great people to do it. So advice,
Awesome.
just move on. Yeah, I mean, that's my only advice, just move on. And I think if you want, it's gonna happen at some point.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back over all your experience at ConsenSys, at Compound, MoonPay, or M0, what is one product decision that either you or someone else took that you noticed changed a project's direction?
Yeah, definitely. So we can talk about Compound. Compound was the first DeFi protocol, like by TVL. I think again, quality of code, everything. And there was a product decision, I guess strategy. It was a big strategy decision growth that the core team is kind of stepping away, and it gives space for community, grant contributors to now basically lead the core efforts. And the core team, which I was the part at that point, we went to build app chain on Polkadot substrate. And also we had a stable coin even at that point. And we spent I think 6 to 8 months on this effort. And then eventually, like we never launched it, and then switched to building Comet v3, Compound v3. So it was like a big product shift from, first of all, stepping away as being like the core team of Compound v2, trying to build something like completely new, not related even, I mean, somewhat related to lending, but not like fully lending protocol, and see how other people working on like what is supposed to be your job. And then we launched Compound v3, which is a current iteration of to switch to launch. So that was a big product decision, which in retrospect I think probably led to like Aave being the biggest protocol, not Compound. And obviously it's not only product, it was a lot of factors leading to that. And I'm not necessarily the best one to talk about them, so Robert can define more. I think it's related also to regulation and other things which led to that. But the learning, coming to your previous question, what is the learning? Even decentralized protocol needs owners. Like somebody need to take care of things because otherwise they break and get messy. So yeah, this was Compound. I think like now in M0, um, I give credit to our founders. Like they had like really good vision, and they wrote the white paper. And overall, even though it's like we are now 2.5, like almost 3 years later, things are sticking to mostly what they wrote. It's like the product market fit was found a little bit differently. We became a stablecoin platform for builders, which was not in the original white paper. But the idea, like, what is M0? It's a platform for builders now to launch stablecoins, and also for issuers, for minters, and other actors to come and issue wholesale asset, which is interoperable between them. And based on that interoperable asset, now we can build interoperable stablecoins. So this was, I think, like very big product then brainstorm decision, and it's still sticking to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That actually answers part of my next question, which goes in the direction of M0, that, what it does. And you mentioned it lets others launch interoperable stablecoins. One example of those, which is doing really well nowadays, is USD but you guys also did work for MetaMask USD. Um, and one question for you is that what do you think are the key choices that made all of this interoperability and launching and making, not that part being different from the original white paper? Where do you think were those key choices? What made that possible?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll describe on technical part of things what made it possible, which were also like which I'm the most relevant for. First of all, we built immutable protocol, which charges interest, charges Minterest the interest for issuing M, and give back this interest, like paying fee to earners. And this, yeah, that was built immutable. We have a lot of continuous compounding calculations built in for minters to charge them the fee and to give this fee to earners, basically. And M we built as, again, immutable rebasing token, like with meaning that the earners of M continuously accrue interest in their balances, right? So our total supply is growing up with time, our balances of earners growing up with time. Now, what's became possible because of that is we had to build the first DeFi compatible wrapper, which we call wrapped M, and this is actually our, I think, our one innovation, because when we look at wrappers, like one of innovations, when we look at wrappers, it's mostly like you have a token and you have an exchange rate before between the original token and the wrapper token. But what we did, we kind of take our M, we take all of this yield accruing calculations, and the only thing we change is rebasing nature of the token. So we didn't change balance and total supply of token, but still have internal logic for accruing yield. What that allowed to do now, this was the first step. Then when we built wrapped M, we look at this like that. Okay, so now we basically have like interest-bearing accruing token, and we can build all kind of interesting wrappers around that, which direct yield in certain ways. So we have a programmable yield component, programmable yield distribution. And then as like product market fits start to form, what like our team and our chief of strategy realized that we can actually build other stablecoins which are built on top of M, and build and have all of this, like, first of all, programmable yield distribution, programmable money, basically, and add additional customizations like compliance checks if they need it, and also some whitelisting, blacklisting, pausing, all of that interesting stuff also in these wrappers. And all of them will be based on M, so meaning that we can change between those tokens relatively easy without exchange rate. So it's like always one to one, because at the end of the day, you just take the token which built on top of M, you unwrap it into a M, and then you wrap it back to another token. Right? So you kind of have built in interoperability between them, while every token can have its own set of features.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
No,
that's how platform was born.
that's fascinating. I remember M0 was the first project where I, heard that there were two sort of governance tokens, and I learned how they work, and I was like, wow, this is brilliant. This was the original white paper. This is like something I've never seen before. I think there were probably other projects that copied this. I don't know if M0 was the first one, but it was definitely the first one that I read about and learned about. And I really, like, thought this is ahead of its time, and super excited to see how well this has found product market fit nowadays. Um, in that direction, having this huge project right now, there's like a lot of interest in M0. I guess there's a lot of signals all over the place that you need to pay attention to, and I wanted to ask you which are the metrics or the signals that you personally pay most attention to. What do you think actually tells you what is working and what is not working?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, external signals and for the project at all, I think just looking at TVL and number of coins, tokens, stables we launch is a good. I mean, it's simple, but it's a good metric. And for me, on the engineering side, one more metric is understanding how many unique things we kind of built and how they connect. For example, with MetaMask USD, it was our first extension where we launched on mainnet and on Linea, and like it was interoperable, right? So like basically you can bridge between Linea, mainnet, yield accruing on Linea, yield accruing on mainnet. This was the first one. Before that, we had only stables on one chain. Now, the next metric for me, which would be interesting, like when we launch on Solana, like as how, when and how we connect, and in which stablecoin we connect, basically EVM and SVM, because we have capacity to do it. So in addition to TVL number of projects, I don't know, some kind of, let's say, recognition, like general in space. From engineering perspective, yeah, it's for me, it's number of this like interesting combination, growth of team, so scaling of team, how many talented people we have. Like the one governance you mentioned, it's like all credos, all kudos go to our founder, Greg. But really, like it was um, three people who were actively working on this. It's like it was me, Mike, and Greg, and now we have the whole team, which is scaled out and building different projects. So this is another metric, like how the company scales and how many different sub teams will be formed. On not so positive side, obviously, like I've tried to track like as we grow. I try to track the metrics of like obviously security, how well we launch new things. You know, like, we have to sometimes to cut the corners, but do we come back to fix like the corners we cut? And like what we do better next time if like let's say the launch of stablecoin. Usually we do everything like we still start with very high quality bar, and even when we rush things like overall very easily fixable. But to me, it's like some internal metric where I understand, okay, so here we should stop and maybe introduce some process. Like so now like we deploy and we have a checklist. What exactly we deploy, how we connect. It's like even if something went wrong. So this is like internal metric I'm trying to establish so that we can scale fast, but we also can keep the quality of what we do.
So I think this pretty much answers my next question, which is what's your personal playbook for shipping safely? If how do you balance the speed and security? And I think this kind of checklist is definitely very useful if you follow it by the letter. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I think like the bugs or let's say like disaster situations, sometimes yeah, they're very unpredictable and happen like all of the sudden in the protocols which were audited and used for a long time. But overall, what I noticed through my career is that things don't happen all the time. They're like science, right? So like you drop the quality here and there, a team is still strong. You can always back up, you can always pick up some things. But if you continue to drop the bar of like how you do things, how you hire, how you ship, how you build, or it's okay to do it this way, we'll upgrade it later, then sooner or later the things like become unfixable and you never know when that happens. And especially if you add that nobody cares, that ownership principle. So that's my goal now, that first of all, like as we scale and grow and like demand of our business team grow, that we continue to still keep the quality. And yeah, like obviously high quality security audits for us is very, very important. It's a peace of mind, and it's also really the process which structure you, because okay, I have audited this date, so what I need to do, I need to do tests, I need to prepare myself, I need to send spec, everything should be more or less working, because I don't want high bugs high critical bugs in my code to be in the audit report. And it helps you out, and also like obviously people looking high qualified people looking at your code is also helps and give you that mental peace that nothing will be screwed up.
Definitely.
So yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Our experience with looking at M0 code is it's always a pleasure to look at, especially that you guys also have very good specs. Um,
thank you.
moving on
Thank you so
to
much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Moving on to the final section of the pod, we have this rapid fire closeout where we ask quick questions and we would like you to answer in just one sentence if possible. The first one is, which piece of advice would you give your younger self or a new Web3 dev?
So my advice would be to myself, will be to be more confident and take more risks. Don't always play
Nice.
it too safely. Doesn't work for security podcast, but yes, that's to my previous self.
Uh, no, that's great. The second question is, if you can name one mistake that teams keep making in security or product.
It's a good one. I think overthinking and put the code, optimizing the code which should not exist in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. The third question comes from our previous guest, Michael, from Immunify, and he asked the next guest, which is yourself, what do you think was the, Friendster or Betamax of crypto? Something which was ahead of its time, should have been widely successful, but it didn't find a good product market fit, or the market went a different way.
So my take on this is that crypto is moving in cycles, and most like a very hyped and very successful narratives been there for some time. So NFTs in 2021, like in ConsenSys, we did 2019, didn't work out. Nobody was interested. The same like prediction market. Does anyone remember Augur? So it's like everything goes
Yeah.
for long time. Tokenized stocks now finally getting traction. We're talking about them for like probably 7 years. I'm waiting for under collateralized lending to kickstart, but yeah, it's been a while for people trying to do what is under collateralized lending. So I think we're moving in cycles, and all of like big ideas are defined. It's just a question like when is the right time and who will pick them up in what variation.
Totally agree. I do remember Augur 2018 was one of the biggest projects at I think it was Eve Berlin. But yeah, you're totally right. These things they many of them were ahead of their time. And for the final question, if you could leave a question for our next guest, please.
Yes, my question for next guest will be, what actually should be done for DeFi projects, except stablecoins, to grow 5, 10 times from now on? And if it's a new wave of DeFi projects, how they will look like. So I would love to learn what is that.
Yeah, same here. I would love to learn that. Thanks a lot for leaving us that question. And thanks a lot for being on the podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you. To close it off, we want to ask where people can, learn more about yourself, follow you, or your project.
Definitely. So learn about myself, I guess, X, message me in Telegram. Our project, yes, it's M0. Check m0.org. Check our X, our website, check the websites of and access of our founders, read our white paper. Kudos to our founders putting it together. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on. See you
Yeah,
next time.
likewise. Thanks for having me. Till the next time.